All right, guys. All right, guys. We're back. Another Men Against Nonsense. Be a man against nonsense every day. This is a movement, not entertainment. Please be guidance to other men around you. And don't be foolish enough not to listen to the advice of good, righteous men. That being said, we've been checking out the Darrell Brooks closing arguments. Again, I haven't followed the whole case. I'm not familiar with all the facts and details. This is just my commentary and using this case to look at how we as men have to be responsible for our own actions and not make excuses. If you watch the other videos in this series, you will see there's certain information that was just disturbing to me, like the recall information, and if he already known about the recall information and still driving the vehicle anyway, when knowing he was putting himself and other people at risk, that is not being a man against nonsense. In fact, that is actively engaging in nonsense. And as a man against nonsense, I cannot condone or justify any nonsense. None of it. I can say I understand it. Let's say financially I can't afford another vehicle, but I don't condone it. Because if you're going to engage in nonsense, you at least need to be responsible enough to um, deal with the consequences of engaging in that nonsense. You have to. It just is what it is, right? So we're 21 minutes into this. Forgive me if I talk too long. There's things that I have to bring out, and this is for your benefit, and it's even just for me to not accept nonsense. Like when I hear nonsense, I gotta address the nonsense. I can't do it. For this reason, there are plenty of former associates that I've had that I just don't associate with because I point out nonsense. Like, man, that's nonsense. I can't go for that. I'm not gonna go for that. And so, no one likes to be called out. So, they disassociate. And again, and that's cool because I have a saying, and let me promote it now. Real men don't hate, they disassociate. I'm not gonna hate you if you want to engage in nonsense, but I'm not gonna associate with you either. Right? That's just what it is. Right? And in fact, I have enough love for my fellow man that I won't sit around you and hate everything about you. I'll disassociate. That's better for you and better for me, right? So be a man against nonsense. Let's get into this.
They speak as someone who's known someone for years. Which brings me back to the vehicle. What if the vehicle couldn't stop because of the malfunction?
Objection, fact, not in evidence.
What if what if the driver of the vehicle was unable to stop the vehicle?
But was he really unable to stop the vehicle? That's the question. And like I said in the previous video, he said he doesn't want to deal with the facts, but he's bringing up things that he asserts are facts. And let's just for the sake of the argument, it's his closing argument. Let's say for the sake of the argument, the vehicle was doing exactly what he says it was doing. It was accelerating beyond his control, allegedly. Was he really unable to stop the vehicle? Again, he could have thrown the vehicle in park, pulled pressed the brakes, pulled the emergency brake, right? All of these things would have decreased like the speed of the vehicle, right? I know that to be a fact, right? And I know people in different circumstances where they've used the emergency brake to stop the vehicle, to stop it, right? Right? Also, right? Again, being responsible enough to know that the vehicle in question was malfunctioning and just not driving it to risk yourself and other people. It's just that simple. But I can think of a number of ways to try to stop the vehicle. I just can't say that he tried all of those ways, which again makes him culpable. Especially that responsibility of not driving a malfunctioning vehicle because you could kill someone. That's more important to me than anything, right? What happens behind the wheel of a car that malfunctions randomly is a different issue. But if did I don't know if it was established that he knew the vehicle was not functioning properly and he still drove it anyway, right? That makes him liable for what took place to me if he already knew. I mean, that being said, again, let me let him continue on, but that's the key piece missing for me. Did he know that the vehicle was not functioning properly? And did he decide willfully to drive it anyway, therefore putting other people at risk?
Because of that fact, what if the driver may have panicked? Does that make the driver a crazed, or not crazed, a rage? Does that make the driver in a rage and intent on killing people?
And you know what? You know what stops a car 100% of the time? Switching off the ignition. Just something to think about.
DA played a exhibit 17. You don't see anyone struck in that vehicle. On that exhibit, you don't see anyone struck. Was someone who had this intent to kill, this rage, as she says. If that was their intent, wouldn't they have taken the opportunity to hit as many people as they could? Target people, mow down people?
That's a fair point, though. That is a fair point. I'll give you that, Mr. Brooks.
Reference was made to this vehicle, the damage. Says this was all caused by bodies, but then later turns around and says hits barricades and other objects. I've heard testimony about hearing loud crashes and things of that nature, but the DA wants you to believe that this all came from people. Evidence doesn't support that.
Sorry about the commercials, guys. Let's go back to that real quick too.
Crashes.
If the DA did in fact insinuate that all the damage came from bodies and it did not, that's very dishonest, right? And I don't like that either, right? Because dishonesty to try to get a conviction, there's no honor in that. There's no honor in that. And if the DA was a male, I would be talking about the DA more specifically, but because this is men against nonsense, I'm not going to touch that too much. But that's very, if that's true, if what he's saying is true, again, I did not watch the entire footage of this case. If what he's saying is true, that is very dishonorable and disgusting. Because that's making an emotional appeal on the jury, but making that emotional appeal with unfactual information. And that's not cool.
And things of that nature, but the DA wants you to believe that this all came from people. Evidence doesn't support that. So I go back to trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened in the last year. Praying for those families, praying for the people that tragically lost their life, because that should not be lost either. The fact that there was lives lost, and all the emphasis has been put on the alleged defendant, and the people have been disregarded.
That has nothing to do with the merits of this case.
Makes me wonder.
The purpose of the case is to establish who, whether he's innocent or guilty. Right. That's the purpose of the case. This is misdirection on his part, trying to say, "Oh, it's too much emphasis on me. It should be emphasis on the families and the people who lost their lives." It sounds good on the surface, but if you realize what's really happening, he's just, you know, distracted when he's trying to present another distraction for himself. And I just don't go for it because I'm a man against nonsense. I see that as nonsense. Yes, the families should be talked about. The lives lost should be talked about. But to de-emphasize your role and the reason why these families are suffering is disingenuous, and you're trying to create a distraction. It's not good.
Does the DA even care about those people?
That's not the DA's job. The DA's job is to get a conviction. Hopefully, a just conviction.
There's been prayers going up every day.
And yes, the DA should care about their lives, by the way, but that's not her job.
There's suffering on both sides. There's been threats, hate mail. Because of the narratives that's been put out there, the misconceptions that have been put out there, the lies that have been put out there, lies that have caused my children not to be able to go to school, to be bullied, for my mother to have to leave her home and stay at a hotel because she's afraid for her safety, because she gets hate mail shoved through her mailbox.
And which people should be doing. Let me say this. As a man against nonsense, even if he intentionally, and I'm not saying that he did again, even if he intentionally did this, his children and his mom are not to blame for any nefarious activities, actions that he take. Period. And so no one should be targeting his family over the crimes that he committed. Assuming, just for the sake of the argument, assuming that he's guilty and blah, blah, blah. And I know he's been found guilty. That's not the point. Just because somebody's found guilty doesn't mean they are guilty. Let's just clear that up. My point is just for the sake of the argument, if he actually was guilty and we knew 100% that he was guilty, it still would not be justifiable to target his mother and children. And a man against nonsense is honest enough to say that. Like, his children are innocent. One could probably make the argument that his mom should have raised him better, but I'd argue, no, his father should have raised him better, right? That would be the stance that I would take, right? Because there's a certain sort of special thing about being a man, and it's being full of integrity and honor and not harming other people with for unjust causes. And so if he had done something like this, intentional, he should get what he deserves. But that, a man against nonsense would would observe that harassing his mom and his children because of his wrongdoing is nonsense. And we don't participate in nonsense. We're against nonsense. We want to shatter nonsense in our society. We don't want to be agents of nonsense, right? We don't want to do that. So I just wanted to comment on that. I'm going to let him keep going. But yeah, don't target family and children of criminals because criminals, right? Again, not calling him a criminal because again, I don't know all the facts. I'm just saying if it was certain that he was a criminal in this case, his family should not be targeted because of that. That's not okay. That's nonsense.
My nieces and nephews to fear for their safety. And what's been equally hard is not only having to answer the questions from my daughter who was 7 at the time, my baby girl who was 7 at the time, is now 8. Attempting to answer her questions that she's asking and still continue to shield her from what she sees, what she hears. Having a newborn son that I haven't even been able to meet. Haven't been able to hold, touch, kiss. Having to navigate everything that comes with this whole situation.
Look at the emotional appeal, bro. No, sir. Man up. Man up. And I know people are going to disagree with me on that. But bringing up your newborn and not being able to hold, touch, kiss, and choking up, that may be on your heart and mind, but that does not really deal with the case. The question is, did you intentionally run into people or was it an accident? Like, that's it. Your newborn baby you haven't been able to touch is a distraction. Stop trying to appeal to the jury, so that they can, oh no, he's not guilty. Oh no, he's not guilty. He has a newborn. Like, no, that's not righteous. That's not righteous at all. Not at all.
While still attempting to wrap my head around it. I can't honestly say how many times I've sat in my cell, especially during lights out, alone, where it's just you. And just been praying and asking myself, how could this happen? Not just for the people, but for everybody involved, the community too. How could this happen? How?
Well, if what you're saying is honest, accidents do happen. Like, we can't control everything. So again, it's still this emotional appealing. How could this happen? This is good community. Like, accidents happen. Accidents happen. They happen. We have to recognize that too. Accidents happen. Not everything is malicious or whatever. Tragedies do occur, Because out of tragedy, character is made. Let me say that again. Tragedies do occur because out of tragedies, character is made. If you never go through anything that tests your character, you won't have any. Or you won't have any good character, should I say. So that's what we're looking at. And again, I just the emotional buffoonery here is actually kind of irritating me. I might have to fast forward, but let's see.
The hardest questions you can ask is those that don't have an answer.
Because it's almost like he's
No
winding
matter how
himself
much
up
thinking you
emotionally.
do, no matter how much you try
Like it's
to
getting worse.
look at it from different perspectives and listen to other outside perspectives and listen to people that you trust and that you love, still coming up with nothing.
And who is he looking at? Like I don't understand that. Who aren't you supposed to be
But to
talking to
think
the
for
jury?
1 second,
Look at them, like
one
a
question
man.
I never had to ask was if this was intentional. That's something that I never asked once. Because I know it wasn't. As a matter of fact, it never even crossed my mind to even attempt to ask myself that because I know it wasn't.
So because you say that, should the jury believe that? Like that's that's the thing. And guys, again, forgive me for these commercials. I'm just using, Fox 9's video, so they have commercials on here. Um, but let's keep that going here.
And I know sometimes during this trial probably doesn't show. May be hard to believe. But trust me when I say no one outside of the families that had to go through this, no one's heart is more in pieces than mine. So again, I go back to all these exhibits.
Yes, what about the exhibits?
Go back to
Mr.
everything that's
Brooks?
been
Come
shown, everything that's been testified to.
on. Disprove it. If you're innocent, disprove it.
Everything you've heard during this whole process, this trial. And again, I say the same thing that I said earlier. Same thing I said in opening statements. I'm not reading from any paper, any books. Everything you've heard in opening statements, everything you're hearing now is from right here. Everything.
And why does that even matter? Does that matter? I don't think so. Doesn't matter whether it's in your heart or not. The question is it true?
You have the decision.
Because sometimes we self-deceive. You know what I'm saying? You convince yourself to believe something that isn't
You and
true.
you alone. All of you. You have the decision. I'm sure you've taken a lot of notes during this process. Some days are longer than others. A lot of movement in and out of the courtroom for various reasons.
So at this point, it just seems like he's kind of just reaching for things to say. Like that's the thing. It just kind of looks like he's just looking for things to say. Let's this area here says it's the most replayed. Let's skip forward a little bit and see what we got here.
I got a letter the other day from my youngest daughter, and she's still learning cursive right now, so she's the best writer when it comes to cursive. She'd rather print. She said, Dad, and this is from the letter. She said, Dad, why are people saying all these mean things about you? I haven't read the rest of that letter yet.
Now, now wait a minute. You telling me you're sitting in prison, your daughter writes you a letter, and you stop reading the letter? Why? Why would you stop? Why wouldn't you read the rest of the letter? But again, it's I mean this is emotional theater here, you know, and you want to feel sorry for the guy a little bit, but I I. I just don't see it. I just see him not manning up and taking responsibility. Hey, I, what I think, here's what I think. And you don't hear me out and don't take it as this is what the truth is. What I think is he's an idiot and he drove a vehicle that was malfunctioning anyway. And he put other people at risk as well as himself. And those people got hurt. And he's not man enough to say, hey, I screwed this totally up. I engaged in nonsense by driving a vehicle I knew was malfunctioning and people got hurt. I'm willing to accept responsibility for my actions if that means I have to pay funeral costs and um, all of that, then I'll do that. But that's the situation. And that's what I'm not seeing. And that's what's very aggravating about this. Is that he's not being a man. He's being a little boy. It was out of my control. I had no control over it. The vehicle, I couldn't stop it. But did you know prior, Mr. Brooks? If you knew prior and you still drove, that was irresponsible of you. And irresponsible behavior comes with consequences. It just is what it is. Reading us quotes from your daughter's letters does not change the situation. The situation is people were hurt from your vehicle. Did you know beforehand that the vehicle was dangerous? Or did you not know? And I haven't seen him say he did not know there was a problem with the vehicle. Everything I see seems to indicate he knew there was something wrong with the vehicle. Now, maybe I'm missing something. I did just skip a little bit. But if you knew, then you are responsible. That's the thing. If you knew something was wrong with the vehicle and you hurt someone, you are responsible. That's it. Just is what it is. No amount of placating and crying and taking long deep pauses and these sad faces and puffy eyes and all of that. That I don't go for that. That's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. You know, this case didn't even have to drag out if what I'm saying is correct, and again I don't know it to be true, but if what I'm saying is correct, and he irresponsibly drove the vehicle knowing that it was dangerous, and he just manned up and said, hey, I knew the vehicle was dangerous, I still needed to go places, blah blah blah, I couldn't afford a new vehicle or the the fixtures needed to make the vehicle safe. I'll take full responsibility for my actions. Y'all just tell me how much I need to pay to make this, make this thing right. Whether that's funeral costs, medical care, that sort of thing. Yeah. That case could have been settled. Been settled. Right? But hey, I'll finish. I think this will be the last time I look at Mr. Brooks'
The rest
case.
of that sentence said, that's not the dad I know.
I thought he said he didn't finish reading it. I thought he stopped there. What, did I miss something?
Throughout this year, I've been called a lot of things. And to be fair, I am a lot of things. A murderer is not one of them. Never has been, never will be.
I'm glad he looked at the jury when he said that. That did help a little bit. But should be looking at the jury the entire time. Like a man is established by, his posture, his ability to look another person in the eye and tell the truth. That's the thing. And that's what's been worrying me about this whole thing. He's not like he's looking down, he's making these faces. I mean, he just reminds me of a teenage boy to me. It's more of a teenage boy than an adult male. Definitely not a man against nonsense.
So before I close my statements, I just want to say, open your hearts.
Yeah, open your hearts. Don't worry about the facts of the case. Just open your hearts. By the way, if somebody appeal to you to open your heart, right, as it suggests that somehow you're being closed-minded to what's being said, right? That's an emotional appeal. That's not a logical appeal, right? That's why he didn't want to talk about the facts. Originally, that's what he said at the beginning of his closing arguments. He don't want to argue the facts. He don't want to debate the facts. He wants you to open your heart so you can ignore the facts.
Go inside yourself when making this decision. Have no fear. Pray and do what you know is right. You
That's
know
that
is right.
that that's where I'm gonna have to disagree with him. Now, I appreciate the appeal for prayer, right? I believe in prayer, and some people don't. I think you would be wise to look into it, but in my system of belief, it is not important to me to push my system of belief down your throat. It's important to me to lead by example. That's the difference, right? Rather than try to convince you to believe what I believe, it's just to just show you the man that I am based on what I believe, and whether if you like the man that I am, then I explain to you the only reason why I am the man that I am is because of what I believe, and so I practice that, right? So his appeal for prayer does touch me. Where he loses me, as he says, um, do what you know is right. Now, you may disagree with what I'm getting ready to say, but let me um, argue this point. Um, God is the only one that's right all the time. That's my position. Now, whether you agree with that or not is your problem, um, or not, right? So that being said, when we're deciding what is right and what is wrong, right, we have to look to God. That's my position. And so if I'm going to pray, I'm not just going to do what I think is right. I'm going to consult God to show me if I'm missing something here so that I can be right when I make the decision. It doesn't matter what decision that is. In this case, it's someone's life in the balance. But um, I'm not going to lean on my own understanding in certain decisions, especially when there's terms of life and death, right? Now, for some men who may not believe in God, that may not work for you. That may not appeal to you. But I'm just telling you from what position I'm coming from, is that when there are drastic decisions that will affect the lives of other people and myself, yes, I pray. I reach out to God and I say, okay, God, help me figure out what is the right choice, the best choice. Um, Help me be right, because I know where being wrong leads, right? Someone's going to get hurt, right? So, and that's not that's not just to pick at him and pick at what he's saying. But when you make an appeal, when you're making a spiritual appeal, I think it's have to understand that humans are flawed and fallible. We don't know everything. So then it's not just about what you know, because you don't know everything, right? So I look at that as, again, just another emotional appeal. Do what you know is right. Um, it's just another emotional appeal. He's placating, and I just don't like it. And using God in that way irritates me too.
Think about everything you've heard. Think about everything you haven't been privileged to hear.
I do agree that the jury should have done their own research about that throttle body recall that he mentioned, right? I would have if I was sitting on that jury. As you guys were seeing in the last video, like I went and pulled up the recall. I want to see if is this true, because the DA objected as if the information was not true, and there were some recalls on that 2010 Ford Escape model, and one had to do with steering. I didn't see anything about acceleration, but one had to do with steering, and that could cause an accident. You know, so those details are important.
Think about the whole entire picture. And above everything, whatever you decide, make sure you yourself can live with it. Make sure you can live with it. That's the magnitude of the power that you have. Just like this tissue is in my hand, this is everything. You have everything. Be at peace with what you decide. Had no regrets.
So now he's trying to appeal to any sense of doubt
Don't
amongst
let
the
this
jurors.
decision weigh on you after it's over. Hopefully we got a long lot of living ahead of us. Lord willing.
I just want to know where
Don't
does he
look back
where
and
is he,
kick yourself
where is
in
he
the behind.
looking? What is he looking at? Again, I just feel like he's reaching for words to say. It's like he's looking around, and you know, it's just awkward to me. And this emotional
It's been
appeal. Make sure you
about 3
can live
weeks
with it.
with you. And
Don't let it weigh on your conscience.
it took a lot of courage and a lot of guts to pause your life for this. To put important things on hold, to basically stop your life. You should be commended for being able to sit up here with this amount of pressure.
What does that have to do with this case? Nothing.
I want you guys to know that's not lost on me. I'm sure it's a lot.
What does that have to do
You all
with
should
the
be commended because
case?
it took courage to do this.
What does that have to do
I don't know, but I
with
would bet
this
a lot of
case?
people wouldn't want to be sitting in your position right now.
What does that have to do with the decision of whether you're guilty or not guilty?
And you guys had the guts to do it.
Nothing. Has nothing to do with it. Nothing.
Thank you for that. Thank you for taking
Okay, now I see
pretty
what
much
you're
a month and setting it to the side.
Now hold on, let me pause it. Now see what he's doing. He's playing to their egos. He's trying to appeal to their egos to get a not guilty verdict. Ain't that something? That's absolute nonsense. Let me finish this video.
For this. I know it's probably not proper, but you guys deserve a round of applause if you could get one.
This is shameless. Very shameful, should I say. It's shameful.
Thank you guys sincerely. And
Ridiculous.
I know, and I have faith and I trust that
That now that I stroked your ego, you're going to give me a not guilty verdict.
you guys know what's right. ladies and gentlemen, I don't think it's fair to just say guys, but
Oh yeah, don't leave the ladies out. Don't leave the ladies out. You gotta placate hard, buddy.
I believe in your heart you know what's right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So yeah, there you have it. The Darrell Brooks closing argument, speaking from the heart, placating, not being responsible for his own actions. From what I can see, like I said, I think to me, he knew that the vehicle was not safe to drive, and he drove anyway, and people got hurt, and yet he wants to still call that as an accident, and I don't see that as an accident. If you did intentionally leave the house with a vehicle that was not functioning properly, and you knew there was a possibility of other people getting hurt, and you did it anyway, then you're responsible. That's the way I see it as a man against nonsense, because it's nonsense to take risks with other people's lives. That's my thing. It's nonsense to take risks with other people's lives. If it can be proven without a shadow of a doubt that that vehicle began to malfunction that day when the incident happened, and he wasn't prepared for, he didn't experience it before, then I changed my thoughts about this. But I think he knew that something was wrong with the vehicle. He drove it anyway. Because I never once heard him say, I had no idea that the vehicle would do that. I've never been through that before. I didn't know that was going to happen, and I didn't know how to handle it. And so I panicked. I didn't hear him say that. Even that would be owning up a little bit to the situation. The car was malfunctioning. I panicked. I hit people. I'll be responsible for all damages and liabilities. Like, that's something different. I didn't hear that. What I heard was, I'm not guilty because the vehicle malfunctioned, and I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. Is the vehicle. The vehicle malfunctioned. Okay. Okay. On the rare chance that the vehicle malfunctioning and okay, yeah, okay. So anyway, I don't want to go into a rant or anything. I just want you guys to think about being a man against nonsense, being responsible for your own actions. If you know your vehicle is not functioning in top shape, and you could end someone's life, potentially 6 people or more, right? Don't drive that vehicle. Be responsible. Be responsible. I've on occasion have walked several miles to work. I know people who walk to work, and I'm not talking about it's a few blocks. I'm talking about it's on the other side of town, okay? Rather than, let's say, illegally drive, right? Because that comes with consequences. So you just we gotta man up. You gotta man up and not take risks with your lives, or your life, or anyone else's life. That's just what it is. And it's nonsense to make an excuse if you knew better and you knew the risks and you took them anyway, and then something happened, and then you say it's not my fault. I don't go for that. I don't go for that. And I don't like semi-religious appeals when you seem to be disingenuous and dishonest. I can't speak for everything that's in his heart. Maybe he is sorry for what happened, but he hasn't admitted to, I made a mistake. That doesn't. So that tells me you're not really sorry for what happened, because I made a mistake. I'm so sorry that this happened. That I didn't hear that, and he talked for I think the video is 54 minutes. He talked for at least like 45 of those minutes, right? And everything was just like distraction, distraction, distraction. Not like I'm so sorry for what happened. It was beyond my control. I panicked when the car was not doing what I wanted it to do, and I I haven't been properly trained how to deal with emergencies in a vehicle. Like that would have even made more sense to me. But it is what it is, guys. Remember, Men Against Nonsense is not entertainment. It's not a game. It's a movement. You can be a man against nonsense, and you can inspire other men to be men against nonsense. It's a lifestyle choice. It's not just a catchphrase. Be no nonsense all the time. See you guys on the next one.